Well, hello good people, I'm Dmitry coming from Thermaltake. Beside me is the new, let me just find the name, Thermaltake AH-T600, okay? You may be wondering, what does AH stand for? Based on this design, some may say attack helicopter. Yeah, we had a laugh as well.
And as usual, big thanks to our sponsors, Razer, Fantex, Be Quiet, and Thermaltake for making CS 2020 possible.
But we've seen something like this from Cougar. We've seen something like this from Antec. We've seen some other companies do something similar. So this is Thermaltake's approach to giving us an open frame concept that has lots of paneling, and the case itself is the showpiece outside of building something that you are proud of it on the interior. The whole front panel here looks very interesting in terms of giving us a cockpit vibe. This is tempered glass. This is not acrylic. Acrylic sucks. Tempered glass, both in the front and the sides. They swivel to open, which is a nice little touch. Unfortunately, it's not aluminum. I was hoping for it to be a little bit more premium, but this is steel, tempered glass, and plastic pieces. So like the side sections over here, I'm guessing it would cost way too much for them to bend these properly. All these pieces are plastic and only the main frame is steel. We have two models over here, white and black, $249 for the white model and $20 cheaper for the black one. And the whole open concept is there so you can populate kind of a beastie system on the interior, up to a 480 radiator in the front, up to 360 at the top, and we also have a side radiator mount, which is quite common for the Thermaltake. You can have multiple radiator sections. The power supply area is of course exposed, but that's kind of been the nature of like these types of cases where everything is on display and it's up to you to make sure that you make it all look good. And the one sort of distinct feature about this enclosure versus the competition is the non-rotated motherboard tray, whereas previous cases had the motherboard tray following in the design of the actual chassis, whereas here the layout is actually pretty standard. The PCI bracket can rotate, so all your slots are now in vertical orientation. And the one thing I find odd is the I/O. It's the very top, so not very accessible. There is no dust filtration anywhere. That's kind of the thing you have to face when it comes to open style cases. But the I/O has a Type-C port, which is great, but also has a USB 2 port for some reason, which on a really high-end case makes no sense. Next case here would be the Level 20 RS. Not exactly sure what RS stands for, but it's based on the Level 20 GT. A lot of complaints there because the whole front section was completely closed off with TG. It was a beautiful color design toward that whole gray aesthetic. Now they're going with a black version. The Level 20 RS is a $149 case, and of course they are meshifying everything. Both the front and the top panels have been replaced with the mesh side, and they're still unsure whether to include the metal mesh and the little like almost dust filter on the inside, the really coarse type, or to remove the coarse type completely and just stick to the metal mesh. And as for the rest of the case, it has been left untouched. Unfortunately, the power supply shroud at the front is not closed off, so you see all your power cables. This is the Level 20 RS, more airflow for the Level 20 GT based on feedback. And the last case here, Thermaltake, is the View 51. They are taking multiple approaches and the same design philosophy from the View 71 in terms of the little spacing over here for airflow. So the hardware does suffer a little bit, but they have added a little bit more ventilation pattern on the sides. So you kind of go with it the whole visual aesthetic instead of performance aesthetic. But the few interesting elements about the View 51 are that it's competing with the Lian Li 011 XL Dynamic in terms of like having the dual chamber separation, power supply at the back, little hard drive cage above the power supply. And this whole front section over here is dedicated for water cooling hardware. I mean, like if you're going with air cooling in this case, like you're doing it wrong. Full support for radiators at the bottom. The motherboard tray is slightly extended, so we have that angular section where the cables exit. We have the side extension over here for radiators, the front, the top, and everything can be populated. As usual, the PCI slot bracket can be rotated as well for vertical alignment. And obviously, it's all about the glass, the side, the top, the front. The back section is actually not TG. It's just a simple panel with ventilation. So if you do mount anything on the side of the radiator that is set to exhaust, that of course will exit normally. As for the price point, $189 for the white, $179 for the black. Both 200mm fans will be included for the front. They are ARGB, which is great, and one rear 120mm fans will be exhausted too. So case airflow from out of the box will be present, and obviously you go ahead and populate this massive case with your own hardware. That's all. And to finish off the cases, let's talk about Thermaltake's new RGB software for lighting. It's called Neon Maker, and this is not something that I was expecting myself to cover, but it's actually very interesting. They're taking a whole new approach in terms of how you customize something like it. So we have a timeline, which means you can schedule different effects as the timeline proceeds forward, and you can have different channels and all that stuff. They are trying to make it as intuitive as possible because the previous RGB softwares from them has not been very user-friendly. A few cool things about this. So obviously we have the timeline at the bottom, so you can see when effects are when they're starting. You can manipulate the actual fans and different products on screen, and you can align them the way you would actually have them inside your enclosure. As you click certain fans, for example, they do light up in red, and that means that you can like find the piece of software and that product inside your case without trying to do all the guesswork, and gives me a little hope for the future of RGB software. All right, so that is it from Thermaltake. New cases. Really excited to see what you guys think about this attack helicopter monstrosity over here. Not something that I personally do, but you know, companies are coming out with something that is different. So yeah, I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you guys in the next video.